You've probably heard of rolling shutter and global shutter, but what exactly is the difference and how does it impact your footage? Well, today I'll break down exactly how the shutter works and why rolling shutter can create some strange artifacts. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of how to use shutter speed creatively to get the cinematic result you want. Let's dive right in. Every camera has a shutter, whether mechanical, electronic, or sometimes even both. The shutter controls how long the sensor is exposed to light. Unlike aperture or ISO, which control the amount of light entering the camera, shutter speed is the only setting that directly interacts with time, making it the only setting we have at our disposal to create images that often leave our viewers in awe. A mechanical rolling shutter operates like one of those old freight elevators with double doors. Once the shutter closes and is ready to expose the sensor, the shutter will expose the sensor from bottom to top and leave a gap between the two doors, allowing a certain amount of light to reach the sensor. Now remember that the lens projects our image upside down, so the shutter exposes the sensor from bottom to top, but our image is captured from top to bottom. When you adjust the shutter speed, you increase or decrease the gap between the two doors, exposing the sensor for a longer period of time. Now we're talking about fractions of a second, so it's difficult to see exactly how the shutter operates, but you can clearly see the gap getting bigger. The electronic version of a rolling shutter does the same thing by turning rows of pixels on and off sequentially to capture an image. Now the key takeaway here is that your entire image is not captured at the exact same time. Instead, it's scanned line by line in tiny fractions of a second. That tiny delay can lead to some very noticeable issues. I'm sure you've seen images similar to this one or of the helicopter where the blades appear not to be moving. This happened because by the time the sensor is exposed line by line, the propeller has moved, causing the camera to capture different part of the propeller at different times and in different area of the sensor, and it creates this warped effect. Now here's the tricky part. You actually don't see the issue in your viewfinder or on a monitor while filming. It only appears during playback. So how do you fix it? Well, many people on YouTube will claim that by adjusting your frame rate, you can fix the problem, but that's not true. This is purely a shutter issue. Let me show you. I shot this test a couple years ago using the Sony a7 III, but again, since most cameras have a rolling shutter, there's a very good chance that you'll experience the exact same thing. In this example, I shot at 24 frames, or 2398 to be exact. But you can adjust the frame rate if you want, and you'll get the same result. With my shutter speed set to its fastest, at 1/8000 of a second, the blades of the fan look very similar to the propeller of the plane in my example. They're distorted due to the time it takes the rolling shutter to scan the sensor. As I decrease my shutter speed, I'll need to adjust my other camera settings to maintain correct exposure. Watch as the blade starts to disappear, eventually becoming a nice blurry circle. Well, in my case, I failed to determine what I wanted the propeller to look like before filming the plane. I should have just simply lowered my shutter speed to make sure that the propeller was all blurry. Now, the other option is to use an extremely fast shutter speed to freeze motion. Theoretically, if the shutter speed is fast enough, it can capture every part of the propeller perfectly in place and sharp. The downside is that this can make movement look very unnatural, like the helicopter shot where the blades are not spinning. However, rolling shutter still takes time to scan the sensor, so even at a high-speed shutter, you might still see some distortion. That's where the global shutter comes in. A global shutter captures an image instantaneously. Instead of scanning the sensor line by line, it activates every pixel at the exact same moment. When you adjust the shutter speed on a global shutter, the shutter simply exposes the entire sensor for more or less time, so you can still create motion blur the exact same way. So why aren't every camera equipped with a global shutter? Global shutters require more power and generate a lot more heat because they also have to use a faster processor to record the large amount of information captured all at once. Those issues impact battery life, size of the camera in order to install some cooling fans, and overall price. Only a few cameras today, like the Sony A9, some of the RED cameras, and certain RE models currently use global shutter technology. I know some of you would say, well, it's not worth the investment. How often do you actually run into this issue? The truth is, very often. Working in corporate films, I often have to deal with scanning lines when filming a computer screen or flickering light bulbs. A global shutter should solve all these issues. I'm sure eventually the technology will become better and cheaper, and we'll see global shutters in all cameras. For now, most of us just have to be mindful of shutter speed and motion blur to avoid rolling shutter problems. Thank you for watching this video until the end, and as a token of my appreciation, I'd like to offer you my free camera setting cheat sheet. Just follow the link below and download your free cheat sheet. Thanks again, and happy filming.